What's up, guys? We're back on the All Good Things podcast. Today, comedian Jay Larson. Jay, hello.
Good to see you, buddy. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you for coming from Mar Vista.
I don't mind. Can I ask a question off the top?
Yeah.
Does everyone comment that these are like the Bob Barker microphones?
Yes, I've heard that quite a few times.
The greatest. I mean, that microphone when you were a kid, and he used to hold it like this, remember? He would hold it so, like, delicately.
Yeah.
Bob never...
Price is Right.
Huge, man. Huge.
Yeah.
When you were a kid and you get home, or like being able to watch game shows, people watched game shows during the day.
How do you think you get selected in there? You have to they just pick people out beforehand, right?
What, in the audience?
Yeah.
I don't know. Never been to one.
You have to look like you're excitable, right?
Yeah.
When you're walking in.
I always think it's funny when you like see celebrities that you appreciate like as actors, and you're like, man, they care about their craft, and then you like some tape rolls up when they were 23 on The Price is Right, and you're like, oh, they just were doing anything. They're like, get me on TV.
Mystique is a funny thing, isn't it?
Yep.
It's funny. I once listened to a podcast with Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. They were on a podcast. They were on Maron's podcast.
Oh my God.
And it's just audio, that podcast.
Yeah.
And I was all excited, and I was like, and not that they're my two favorite actors.
Yeah, they're beasts.
100%. I think they're incredible. And the minute they were on a podcast, I was like, oh.
You're just normal people?
Yeah. Just to hear them talk or
fart?
What they had to say. Mostly what they had to say was they liked Mark Maron's podcast. That was all they really.
Oh, really?
And it was like during the time when they were promoting that movie, that Tarantino movie. Which,
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, which, by the way, he's not doing his last movie. Did you hear this?
What?
Yeah, he's not doing it.
What?
And
Why?
I heard Shane Gillis was going to be in it, and
why isn't he doing it?
I don't know. He pulled the plug on it. Maybe he couldn't get the money.
Isn't it? There's no way Quentin Tarantino
Well,
can't
Scorsese struggles to get the money. It took him forever to make The Irishman.
I'm just going to go on record and say The Irishman sucked.
Okay.
And I also didn't like Killers of the Flower Moon.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it. I didn't care about anyone. But what I'm saying is Tarantino has made, what has he made, 7 movies? He's made 7 movies.
Yeah.
That's a career in directing. And you could pull out maybe, you could take out, what was that one called? 4 Rooms. Pull out 4 Rooms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other than that, though, who else has ever had a career where you've made 7 movies and what? They're all flawless?
Yeah.
I mean, aren't they? I mean, Jackie Brown has maybe like a little bit of it's missing. I love Jackie Brown.
Sure.
But, dude, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys. Did you see The Hateful Eight?
Yes.
So I saw it in the movie theater, right? When they did it in 70 millimeter. So they did 70 millimeter with an intermission.
Yeah.
And at the intermission, we were talking to this woman in line, me and my buddy, and talking about like how excited we were for the movie. And then at intermission, we were talking, and she's like, God, how ridiculously like slow is this? Like, it's just not blah, 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 blah. And I go, well, I'll be straight up. The last time I saw a movie with an intermission, the second half just like crushes. And she's like, oh, okay. And then my buddy and her look at me, they go, wait, when was the last time you saw a movie with an intermission? I go, exactly. The guy, look at the wrist this guy's doing. No one else is doing this. Just shut up, sit back, and watch.
100%.
Art doesn't need to be perfect every time.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? But except for the flower of the killer moon or whatever.
You commented on my New Balance earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You made a comment about them. How do you feel about them?
About this particular pair?
Yeah.
Or New Balance in general?
This particular pair. And in general.
I don't mind these.
Before we sat down, Jay made a little comment about my New Balance. He goes, I think he said something like,
all I said was, when did you make the commitment to New Balance? Because, when
I was like 22.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, where'd you grow up again?
Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because New Balance is a Boston shoe.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been comfort. I think because my back, if I don't have good shoes, my back goes out.
Oh, dude, I know. Me too. But
So what are you doing? I mean, we're relatively the same age. I mean, these are great. They look great. But you said you sacrifice style for comfort. I mean, comfort for style, which is like, I don't know how you do that.
Listen, I'm trying to think of like the last time I almost bought a pair of New Balance the other day. And you know what I bought instead? Black patent leather loafers. I'm like, I need a nice pair of shoes.
Sure.
And guess what those did? They shredded my feet. We're doing a show at the Chicago Theater. I'm like, I could get another pair of white sneakers. I have so many pairs of white sneakers. I'm like, I can't do it again. But no, I know. These are probably amazing for you, right?
I think too, for me, like a lot of what I do is I'm like trying to keep up with people who are half my age.
Yeah.
And so when I have these, I'm like,
Get a little bounce in your step.
even just like, we were shooting a video yesterday with a Cybertruck, and
How is it with the gas pedal or no? They recalled.
They
a ton.
recalled it. He fixed it. All they did was it was recalled, but they just put a drill in the middle of it, a little bolt. They
Okay.
bolted it down.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very forgiving of Tesla. I think Tesla's incredible. I don't know what you think of it, but the
About the Cybertruck?
The truck is insane.
I think the Cybertruck is the fucking coolest car on the road. I think it's the coolest car ever built in history. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's as cool and as iconic as the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
You see that thing and you're just like, who said you could do that?
Yeah.
And then just did it.
Yeah.
Because, dude, if you look at if you take a new Tesla, a new Audi, a 4-door car, right?
Yeah.
Audi, BMW, Mercedes, they all look exactly the same. Nissan Altima, all those cars, they look the same.
Yeah.
There is nothing that looks like that Cybertruck.
Yeah.
That thing is rad. It's just way too long.
It's a little big.
It's
tough
long.
to park. And the guy who I borrowed it from, he said he only takes it out on the weekends because it causes such a stir. He said he feels like a celebrity in it. And then when I was driving it, people are just like, people stopping, taking pictures. Like, it's crazy.
Dude, it looks like something out of Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's so irrational, and it's everything I love.
Yeah.
I love cars. I'm a car freak.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. So Rivian, Rivian, the electric
I seen the Rivian
truck,
I seen it.
they are releasing a car that's coming out in like 2025.
Yeah.
By the way, all right, just so you know, I'm on the wait list for,
The Rivian.
yes, and I'm also on the wait list for the Cybertruck,
Oh, you are?
and I'm on the wait list for the DeLorean, the new DeLorean, the one out of
making
Italy. They're making them in 2 places, one out of Italy and one out of Texas.
Really? Like
And-
a 2-seater?
No, this is a 4-seater, and it still has the big door, but they're like huge
The doors go up?
Yeah,
Do they go slide up or do they pop out?
they pop out.
Yeah.
And-
A 4-door that pops out.
But it's a 2-door car, but 4-seater.
Got it.
I'm also on the wait list for the Cadillac Celique. It's just like, anyway, it's a $300,000 car. I was like, maybe things will change by the
Right.
time, And then I had an appointment to go look at it, and I can't. Anyway, Rivian has this new car coming out in 2025 that's like built like a rally car. It's kind of like triangle boxed in the back.
Oh, yeah?
And I just love it.
You like it?
I like things that are different. You know what I mean? I like that Tesla truck. You don't see cars that are just like different anymore. Everything has become this mold of a thing.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone liked Tesla, because it was electric, but it's unique in their programming inside. But when they did that truck, they were just like, everyone and everything you can imagine. Like these right here are like boxy and big, and right?
Yeah.
And like when they started making Yeezys, those things were like I was like, those are not for me.
Yeah.
But I saw that truck and I was like, oh, that's just perfectly weird enough.
I had the Model X, and the doors went out like that.
Oh yeah.
And it's cool, but then after a while, like, your mother hits her head on the door, or it's just like not totally
practical,
functional. So once we got rid, I have the Model Y now, and it's better.
Yeah.
A lot better.
I'm still a Toyota Highlander. You know what I mean? Mitchell gets me.
Okay, I want to show you a story, then we'll get back to talking. Do the streamer. This is a woman streaming, and she gets into a fist fight. She's hitting her boyfriend, and
Look at this.
what's funny about it?
Warning. What are we warning about? The following video
Well,
contains images that some viewers may find upsetting.
Hi, Sarah. How are you? How are you, Sarah?
I got him.
Hi. Nudes and different sentences that he.
Sarah, I'm sorry about this.
Don't talk. Don't talk.
The funny part is someone sends $5.
Your way today.
Every time she hits someone?
So don't worry. But yeah. So. Yeah.
What do you mean test you? She already punched you twice, bro.
I would stop talking about. Oh yeah.
Dumb in the middle of the
15?
street
Okay,
dancing.
Yeah, Sarah, I heard you had a kid when you were 16. That's
Look
what
at
he told me.
Sarah donated $5. I know what.
And he said you keep showing up, and he says you won't stop texting.
That is kind of amazing. Wait, is this her whole platform? She just drives around and hits dudes? But that's her boyfriend.
Huh?
That's her boyfriend?
Something to her. Maybe it's her boyfriend. I don't know. But then eventually, you don't have to watch it, but he attacks her, and then he stops the car, and she runs out of the car. And then the police come, and because he's like, call 911, call 911. But it's just insane that I just thought the funny part was someone sent $5.
For her to, yeah, but that's the whole, what is she does the whole time, I wonder?
No, I don't think she's always just hitting people. I don't think that's her thing.
The first one was a pretty chill hit, like playful kind of, you know. And then that second one, she popped him right in the face, square in the nose. I love that he kept going, don't test me. Like, dude, she tested you. I think she went above and beyond the test. She hit you twice.
Wait, there was one other one. The internet's just the stuff that you find. What I find funny about the internet, the thing that makes me laugh the most on the internet is what is the comments, is what people are doing.
Yeah.
Putting on top of it. This guy's made an Instagram video, and he's saying you can make a lot of money selling stuff on Amazon.
Sure.
Right? So it's a regular video.
Yeah.
I sell these rocks.
You sell rocks?
Show you how.
Huh?
I
You
go
sell
to TJ
rocks?
Maxx,
No,
I buy
he
Jordan
sells
branded products like
rocks
this,
you can hide a key.
and I flip them on Amazon for a profit.
So instead of going to retail stores to flip products on Amazon, I go to Alibaba and I buy products like this rock hide a key for around 20 cents each. And I could sell them on Amazon for $14.
Okay.
Last month, this
Yeah, that's
product
good.
brought in over $100,000.
All right, so he made $118,000 doing it. But what's funny is in the comments, Mitch will show you some of them. He has auto reply on the comments. So whatever you write, he writes, just DM'd you.
Yeah.
So then people are having a blast in the comments. So here,
Cocaine from
can you show me how to
scratch.
make cocaine from scratch? Cocaine from scratch. I'll shoot you a DM now. Make
Look
sure
at
to-
someone, though, with the real comment. Like, oh, this is interesting. And how much did you pay in advertising?
Yes. Some people are real. Go for another one, Mitch. Some of them are really great. How many people do you kidnap to make this much money? Just sent you a DM.
Still willing to watch the video.
Yeah.
And then comment on it. I'm making lots of money to provide absolutely
read that
nothing
one,
to the
read that one,
economy.
Jay.
What do you mean?
Read that, bro. Help.
Bro, help. How do I find where we planted the bomb? How do I find where we
DM incoming. How many pickles could you fit in your mouth? Just sent you a DM. And that's awesome.
He's going to get shredded even more by doing that auto reply. That's the worst.
Right. But then he gets his algorithm is boosted because people are commenting. So that's how I ended up seeing the video, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Right. Did you go back to Boston much?
No, you know what? I took my kids back last summer. I went 12 days. I went New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and we did everything. And this summer, I was like, said to the kids, I'm like, so maybe we'll go back home this summer. And my daughter goes, no, I don't really want to. And
really?
I go, what do you mean? I go, well, just go see, grandma, like, I don't know how much longer my mother's going to be around. She goes, I don't really want to see grandma. And I go, why not? And she goes, I don't know. And I was like, okay. Well, what would you want to do instead? She goes, can we go to Japan? I go, bitch, what, you think Massachusetts and Japan are on par? Yeah. And I go, we can't go to Japan. She goes, what about Paris? I go, all right, we gotta change some stuff up. You're 8 years old.
These LA kids, huh?
LA, she just is like, yeah, I just think even nowadays, just with the internet, you're just exposed to so much that you can like experience what Paris looks like. And then you find out like, if you're into fashion or something, like she sews and she makes her own clothes.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, Paris is where you go. And she loves sushi. Oh, so Japan, that's where we go. They love anime. And then all of a sudden it's like opened up to you, this world. And then they just think a flight's a flight. And you're like, nah, a flight's just not a flight. I remember one day we were driving and my son goes, Dad, what's going to happen to me when I grow up? And I go, what do you mean? He's like, what am I going to be? And I just pulled the car over and I turned around and I go, both of you listen right now. All you need to know is work hard, be honest, be kind, have fun. If you do those 4 things, you won't have to decide. Your life will just open up in front of you, and you just keep moving forward doing those 4 things.
Do something you're passionate about.
Yeah, and it's like whatever is going to be will be. But instead of like thinking like, I heard that stress of what's my life going to be, and I was just like, oh boy.
People always ask me, they're like, how do I become a YouTuber? And it's really, you just have to be passionate about making videos.
Yeah.
And not expect anything.
Yeah, like
don't even try unless you love making videos.
Yeah,
and that will float you. It's like being a comic too. It's like
you have to love it.
You have to love it, or even like when you're a struggling comic and like maybe you have like one joke that another comic says is great.
Yeah,
that keeps you going
for sure,
forever, right?
Yeah. Well, and then it's like when you get a new joke. It's like I said to you, I'm like, how often do you live stream? And like the amount of effort that you put into it, it's like you have to work hard and you have to be having fun. Because if you can't do one, one's going to fuel the other and the other's going to fuel that one. You can't just, people look at YouTubers or people who do social media and they're like, oh my God, that's all I have to do. It's like, no, do you have any idea?
No. It's
My friend's huge on social, and she asked me to go to this event with her, this golf event, to write some jokes with her and help her out. And I was like, sure. For the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines, by the third hole, I think she had shot maybe 17 videos in 3 holes.
Yeah.
And then she goes, what do you about this idea? And I go, I think we got it.
Yeah.
And she shot.
What was she doing? Snapchat?
No, she was just getting them for all of her. She wasn't doing them live. You know, she was doing them for like IG, TikTok. Right. And I was just like, I think you've got enough content. And she shot every single hole the whole day. Yeah. And then went and was social with everyone else that was there, and then probably went back and edited them and prepped and like what was the next day. And I was just like, wow, you put a lot of effort into this.
I try to explain that to my wife and kids, like the level, I hate this word, but the level of grind that it takes. Like it's pathological. Yeah. It really, really is to, I live stream 5-6 hours a day. I just edited a vlog yesterday. I posted that. It's like, you have to be like,
you're your own network.
Yeah.
You're your own network.
Yeah. It's really something.
And it's great to see. That's why I love directing, because it's not that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you get to, I love being able to tell a story and show a story.
Do you write movies too?
Yeah.
So you're trying to get those made?
Yep. And TV.
TV shows.
And I've sold a couple TV shows. Did you back in the day? You were getting deals, no?
Yeah, we were selling.
Yeah.
And then they would never go anywhere. I sold one this year. And I'm making like a Curb Your Enthusiasm with, do you know who Andy Secunda is?
No.
He wrote on the Goldbergs. He's like a UCB, like improv guy.
Yeah.
And he directs. And so we're making that, and we're making the pilot in August, which is exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's also like, we'll see.
Yeah.
And then we're supposed to make another 9 in January. but we'll see. Yeah. But I stopped doing that. I stopped doing all that stuff. Like maybe like, I made a couple of movies.
I know why you stopped.
Okay, tell me.
Because it's a grind.
Yeah, you know what? I got tired of going in and pitching something and people saying no.
And for anyone who's out there listening,
or maybe, I would have rather a no.
Yeah,
give me the no.
Give me the no.
Maybe. Give me the no. It was always maybe. And I just got tired of that. I just couldn't take it.
You know, it's funny. There used to be two kinds of stand-up bookers for late night. The kind that would watch your set and go, no, it's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
And then the kind that would watch your set and be like, it's not what I'm looking for. What else do you have? Let's work together because I believe in you.
Right.
And there's a lot less of that in TV. So what I'm saying is with the grind is like people, it's this... no professional athlete is just good at sports.
Yeah.
They grind.
Yeah.
They have the talent, but they grind.
Yeah.
Like Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy was the last pick. They grind. They grind. And Tom Brady's still grinding at everything else he does.
Yeah.
There's no easy way through all this. You know what I mean? It's like you grind, and then you just decide what grind do you want to live.
Yeah.
Because some people aren't grinding in their careers, and they're
grind 80 times.
I know. You said you hated it. But I'm saying there's certain professions that you don't have to work that hard at, right?
Like what?
I don't know, like
stripper?
No, school teacher maybe. I know there's a lot of work in being a school teacher. What's that? Why are you laughing, bro? I think a school teacher probably works really hard at what they do. They have a lot to do, but they don't have to like the level of which.
Yeah, they put it away on the weekends, maybe.
Our grind also comes with those comments that we looked at earlier. They're personal attacks on our stand-up or our comedy or your blog or your podcast. Or your nose so there's a level of it that you just have to be willing to deal with to get what you want to do because it's something. I used to say this to people, I'm like, no one has a dream and it comes easy. You work. The reason they call it dream, like keep dreaming. There's a reason that keep dreaming is a saying is because it's like really hard.
What's the most exciting thing you've ever done as a stand-up?
Most
gratifying or?
I mean, I have a couple. So New Faces, Montreal Comedy Festival, which doesn't exist anymore. It used to be the thing.
Yeah.
And I remember like on my showcase, I got on stage and I took the mic and people already started laughing. And I was just like, oh, Like it's going to be one of those sets. That was a cool moment.
That's a cool moment.
I've had a cool moment. Like I've, performed at the Boston Garden, like in front of 11,000 people on a like Comics Come Home show with Dennis Leary and Burr.
That's fun.
That was cool. But like the best thing that ever happened for me to stand up, I had this one joke that was like my Jim Gaffigan Hot Pockets joke about getting a wrong phone number, and it was like a long
I've seen
story.
that.
Yeah. And that was a story, and it used to be 6.5 minutes. And JP Buck, who was the producer at Conan, who booked the stand-ups, was one of those guys that if he believed in you, he would work with you. And you only get 4.5 minutes on late night. Right. And I kept trying to get. I must have recorded that story at Comedy Magic 18 times, and I was like, JP, I can't get it down below. The lowest I got it was like 5:45.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, I don't know. We'll just wait. And it's a story. People never used to let you do a story on late night because if someone tuned in the middle of the story, they're going to change the channel. They want a joke.
Yeah.
And that's one story.
Yeah.
And
so what happened?
So one night I'm sitting there and I'm watching Nate Bargatze, who I think is maybe the best comedian in the world right now. Like I love him to death.
Him.
And he did like 2 minutes of jokes and then told a 2.5 minute story. And I remember watching being like, oh, Bargatze's doing a story. And I saw JP the next night and I go, dude, you see Bargatze last night? He's like, yeah, great. I'm like, yeah, he did a 2.5 minute story. And he goes, well, that's why we're having dinner. And I go, what? Right. And he goes, Conan wants more storytellers.
Oh, wow.
And I go, so are you saying we're doing wrong number? And he goes, I'm saying we're doing wrong number. And I go, but I can't get it below 5:45.
Right.
And he goes, I talked to Jeff Ross, who is the executive producer, and he said, you have as much time as you want.
Wow.
And I said, all right. And so we did it, and I did it in 5.5, quick, because probably I was rushing a little, I was nervous. And it crushed, and then I went like to number 1 on Reddit like 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
And this was 2011,
Yeah.
And that one joke has been watched like, I don't know, over 300 million times. It's like on Conan's Facebook, it's like 180 million views. And it was like the thing, that was like my story that people were like, really cool this story. Guy, and he's got a cool perspective. And I sold a TV show off it. You know what I mean? Like,
and tell everybody like quickly what the story is. It's someone calls you.
This is like my wheelhouse, man. Is like I can write jokes, but I'm much better like feeding off of people.
Yeah.
And I just was driving one day and I got a wrong number, and the guy called me up like heated about a budget, and I just went with it, and I was just like, listen, man, that's not true. Blah blah blah. You could look up the joke if you want, called Wrong Number, Jay Larson, and I just go back and forth, and I couldn't believe like he referenced another guy. I commented back about that guy.
Yeah.
I threw someone else in there just to see how far I could go with this thing. And then finally I told the guy, I'm like, just go call the other guy and check in with him. And he was like, fine. And he hung up. And I was like, I'm driving down the 405, like freaking. Call my boy in Atlanta. I'm like, just what I just did. Like, I thought it was so fun. And then like I saved his number and he called me 3 days later with 2 other people. They're trying to get to the bottom of this because they realize that I'm not a real person, and I go all the way with them, and it was just amazing. And then you know what? And then I called the guy like 6 months later, and I was like, hey man, I'm gonna do Conan. You remember?
So wait, at that second call, did they figure out you were fake?
They knew I was fake on the second call,
they did.
but I just kept going until like they were on to something, but I just didn't. I'm just like, nah, I'm gonna ride this till the wheels fall off. And then at the end, I just like turned it back on them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, whatever, and we got off the phone. And then like I started doing it on stage, and then I was gonna do it on Conan, and I had the guy's number, and I call him like, hey man, do you remember me? I called you a while back, but No. And the guy's like, what? Wait, yeah, this kind of sounds familiar. And I was like, remember there was this budget you guys were talking about? He goes, oh yeah, I remember you. I go, well, I'm going to be on Conan. I'm a comedian. I'm doing that story. Will you watch it? I'm going to be on Conan. He's like, all right, okay. And so he watched
you were calling for permission.
No, I was just letting him know because I wanted to do a documentary.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, I'm going to go all the way with this.
Sure.
So I did it. I called him up. I go, hey, did you see? He goes, yeah, I saw it. I remember you. Yeah, I remember this whole story. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, so I was thinking maybe we could do like a little documentary, like me, you, Larry, Bruce, like the other people. And he's like, nah, I don't want to do any of that. I'm like, why not? It'd be fun. He's like, nah. And then I was like, all right. And then I go, well, who are you? And he goes, he had like a scrap metal business in New Jersey, but he donated his time to this company in LA that would send Jewish people to Cuba because you couldn't get into Cuba. You know what I mean? Like that was back when you couldn't go to Cuba. And so they would put money together for Jewish people to get, I don't know. And he must have dialed one number off and got me. And then it turned into like this great joke for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
A calling card for you and everything.
And that's the thing. I love people. I love people.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love dirtbags. I love people. I love nice people. I like funny people. I like dry people. It doesn't matter to me. Like when I'm out with my kids, everyone's in play. You know what I mean? They know. And I'll be like, what up? Just to some person. And my kids are like, Dad, do you even know that guy? I'm like, no, why do we need to know that guy? Why would we need to know that guy to talk to him? And now my kids are like kind of like, they get like when we're out, they might start talking to someone and like they just have this like loose feeling about the world that I love. Because that's the way I just want to live. I just feel like we should all, everyone's in play. You know what I mean?
And you have a happy divorce too, right?
Great divorce.
Good. Me
you
too.
know, yeah.
Me too. Yeah, my ex is great.
It's like, I just never understand. If it didn't work, it didn't work. But like, get past yourself and then look to your kids and like, look what example you can show your kids if you get along.
You said something to me on the deck before we started recording that like really hit home with me.
What?
You were just like, yeah, like I just, because I do the same thing. It's like, yeah, like if I just have to get shit on, I just get shit on. Like if I just have to take the shit, I'll just take it.
Just
and
take
not,
it.
So in other words, like if my ex like has to leave town for 10 days, there's two ways you could go. You could be an asshole.
Yeah.
But that's not going to get you anywhere.
No.
Right. And so I just go like, I saw, my son had prom Saturday night and I saw her and she was just like, oh, by the way, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. And I was like, oh, right. And I'm like, when are you going to be back? She's like, well, it's going to be like 9-10 days. And I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. I remember one time I was like dropping
better.
I was picking the kids up at her house, and then I need to get something out of the garage that was still there, and she made a comment about how long my stuff had still been at the old place, and I just like I wanted to snap, and I go nope, and I went home with the kids, and I go, hey, I'll be with you in a minute, and I looked at the calendar, I'm like, when can I get over there and get all this out? And I texted her, and I go, hey, sorry, all my stuff is still there, I can get it out this date, is that cool?
Right.
And she wrote back, yeah, I really appreciate that. And it was like, before it can get to this, I just took it out here at the legs, and I just try to support as much as I can because it just doesn't it feel good to just. Yeah. It feels good to be okay with it being not the way you want it when you know it benefits. It just benefits everyone.
Right, for the sake of everybody else.
Feels the best, dude. I wish I could have that from my past.
Do you have wild drinking stories like when you did that TV show or anything?
No.
Nothing you want to share?
That's where I knew I had. I've never had a problem. I used to bartend a lot. And I bartended. I remember one night I was bartending in New York and we used to do pickleback shots. That was a big thing. Jameson and then ice cold pickle juice. And I did 12 one night and I wasn't drunk. I was like bartending, doing my thing. And I told my ex-wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, like, I think I need to chill out. I'm like, I had 12 shots of Jameson tonight and was fine. And she was like, whoa. And I just was, I was always also a controlled drunk. I think it's because I've always been like, I need to be, my mother is very much like, present yourself well. So like, I was never really a slobbering, like, do stupid stuff drunk.
Right. 12 shots and you don't feel it is insane.
I mean, feel it to the point where I wasn't like, yeah, I'm Irish.
Would you drink while you were bartending?
Yeah. But not all the time.
How many drinks would you have?
No,
12
that was just shots. I wouldn't have cocktails sitting around or anything. There was this one bar and like you would just get people to do shots with you like this dude's a couple Jameson and you're just like, oh, this is fun.
Can you make good money bartending?
Yeah, we made good money.
Yeah,
especially when we used to steal. When we were stealing, we'd make real good money. Dude, bartenders steal. That's just part of the game. Did you remember Pete Johansson?
Yes.
He was a stand-up and he used to work at what was the Roxbury, and his manager used to come over every night and be like, hey, make sure we're taking a little for ourselves tonight, because if you're not taking a little, you're taking a lot. And that's just the way it is. But I was trained by this bar manager who was like, when he trained me, it was my first bartending job. He's like, all right, and then we have this cash drawer over here, so we take some cash, and then you'll get a cut of it, but the rest of it goes to like the owner. And I was like, oh, and it was just like part of the system. And then that dude went away for a weekend, and me and the other bartender had to like, bartend together. And the bar manager said, he's like, hey, make sure you're hitting that cash drawer, because if those numbers spike, it's going to look bad for me. And I go, all right. And we hit it, but not as much as he was hitting it. Bro, we used to ring on a Friday, Saturday night, like $2,200 behind the bar. He went away. We did that weekend. We rang $3,600. And normally on a night when we were with him, we'd walk with we'd get our tips would be like 300 and change, maybe 320. And then he'd give us an extra envelope of cash for like 140. So we were making close to 5 bills on a Friday or Saturday night. We rang $1,000, $1,200 more than normal. And me and the other bartender each made $1,200.
Wow.
And I just remember counting the money going, how much is he taking? He had 2 condos, a Jag, a Porsche. What is he doing? And then it ended up going to court and and I had to go testify. And
you did?
Yeah. I was like, well, this is how I was trained. And they're like, how? I'm like, well, you hit the cat. I just laid it all out. I'm like, I have nothing to hide. I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. This is what we've been doing,
Did you get in trouble?
No, nobody was going to get in trouble. They fired that dude, and then he filed for unemployment, and they were like, nah, G.
Really?
Yeah, and then
Why'd
they were
you
like...
have to go to court?
Huh?
Why did you have to go to court?
So after he filed for unemployment, they were like, no, and they started looking into everything, and they're like, you've been stealing, we're taking you to court, and then they came to all of us. I remember they came to me, and they're like, we're going to take him to court for stealing. And I go, okay, and they're like, we'd like you to testify. Was this going on? I'm like, I'll be straight up with you, yes. And they're like, were you stealing? I go, yes, that's how I was trained. The first day I worked here,
right.
It was all going back to this other owner. They were 2 owners, and it was going to the everyday owner. And I was like,
that's a good story.
Yeah, a lot of stealing. You never bartended?
No.
Yeah, it was like.
I kind of wish I had.
Are you sober, like AA sober, or just no?
I'm just Jewish and I don't drink.
Yeah,
I'm just
okay.
Yeah. How's Al Madrigal?
He's great.
Yeah, he's great.
He's great, dude.
He's a really funny guy.
He is so funny, and he's low key funny. You know what I mean? He just
I just saw him in Curb.
He killed it in Curb.
I went to a Curb Your Enthusiasm panel last Thursday at Paley Fest, and it was Judd Apatow hosting, Larry, David, Jeff, Susie, and JB Smoove, and the creator, Jeff, the guy that does all the writing.
Yeah. Directing too.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I bet. He directed me.
You're sure he directed you? Were you in it?
Yeah, I did one episode.
What was your episode like? Tell me.
I carjack Larry and
I've seen all the episodes.
Richard Lewis outside of Latte Larry's.
Yes.
I carjack him. I have the Jets mask on.
Yes.
So
you had the mask on, so I didn't know it was you.
No one knew it was me.
Oh,
so
funny.
I get there
it's
that
not
day.
You're just lying.
Yeah, bro. So I get there and they're like, yeah, all right, so we're going to put this mask on you. I'm like, what's it going to be? And they're like, oh, it's a Jets mask. And I was like, oh, all right. And so I do it, blah, blah, blah. And a week and a half, 2 weeks later, Crashing, remember Pete Holmes' show, Crashing?
Yep.
They were screening 2 episodes because they found out they weren't getting a 4th season, so they're going to screen a couple episodes at UTA, and I went to it because I had done some writing on it. And Jeff Schaefer is sitting next to me, and I go, "Oh, hey, Jeff," and I go, "How you doing?" And I meet his wife or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, hey," and he goes, "Hey, sorry about the ski mask," and I go, "That's all right." I go, "It was kind of tough to tell people you're in the show when they can't see you," and he's like, "Yeah." But you know what happened during that? I'm like,
that's like a Curb moment in itself.
A total Curb moment, dude.
No,
everything around that show is a Curb. It's unavoidable. So I'm doing the show. We're shooting a scene, and then we're waiting for them to move cameras or move lights, and I'm just standing there, and it's me and Larry David just standing here.
Yeah.
And he's practicing his golf swing, but without a club, just practicing his swing. Yeah. And I'm just like, Larry will like this. And I put my hands on his hips and I go, Larry, you gotta really power these hips through. And he just goes and walked all the way back to Video Village and just kept looking back the whole time, why would you ever touch me? And I thought as a comedian, he's gonna get what I'm doing.
Right.
And he's gonna be like, this is so funny. And he didn't. Oh, no. And I remember just watch him walk away like this. And I'm just going, in my head, I'm like, am I getting fired right now? Am I going to get fired? And then I don't know where I found the power to do this. And I go, this is a him thing, not a you thing.
Yeah.
Let it be on him.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the day, I just talked to him like a normal human. I was just like, I'm going to pretend that never happened. And during stop downs, I'd talk to him. And
well, that's what he did. That's his famous story of quitting SNL and then just showing up on Monday like nothing happened.
I know.
That's his famous story, which is a great story.
And did he keep working there?
Yeah. He said to Kramer, the real Kramer.
Yeah.
So what do I do? And Kramer said, just go back.
Yeah.
Like nothing
happened.
happened.
And then George ended up doing that
And SNL is that type of place. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've worked there.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I worked there. I was like Norm's assistant there.
Norm
And-
Macdonald?
Yeah, and it is that kind of place where it's like everyone's just this island, and you can like yell and scream, and there's like a fight, and then suddenly the job is so important.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's so dysfunctional.
and it's so
clearly.
dysfunctional that you're just like, okay, I guess everything's fine. We're shooting again. I've seen screaming matches there.
Yeah.
I've seen people get into fistfights there, and a couple times, and it's just like, well, the show is happening.
Yeah.
So we just have to go back to normal.
God. Well, dude, I've never been like a giant comedy fan of comedians, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I just kind of was funny and people pushed me into stand up and I got
Yeah.
into it. It wasn't like I was like, some comedians like, oh my God, I've heard every Lenny Bruce joke and Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
But Norm Macdonald is one comedian I wish I had been a fan of when he was alive.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
I didn't get hip to Norm till like close to the end. Like I did a weekend with him. I remember I was in Portland doing stand up and I was hanging out with a local comic and he's like, do you want to come over after the show? And I go, sure. And we go and he goes, Norm's on Conan. You want to watch Conan? And I go, all right. And I'm like, I can't believe he's like jacked up to watch Norm on Conan.
Yeah.
And it was so unbelievable. And now I deep dive on Norm all the time because he is just so fucking funny.
The Conan episodes gave him all those appearances on Conan gave him this crazy resurgence.
Yeah.
Where people just became fanatical about him.
There's the moth joke that he did.
And
which
he really worked at those appearances on Conan. Like he
made sure he had something ready.
Yeah.
That
But I liked what you said. I like what you did with Larry David. That's such a great tip in life. Like, that's a you thing, not a me thing.
Yeah, man, it took me a long time to get there. Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I'm here. I'm not fired. They haven't fired me.
Yeah, and I was just like, even if they were, I would have no control over whether they decide to fire me or not.
Exactly.
There's nothing I could do. He could go back there and decide he's going to fire me.
And it's more work for them to fire you. They've got you there.
I know.
So they're just like, okay, let's just figure
That's
it
the
out.
irrational mind of being like, I could have that up even worse. I could have followed him and be like, hey, sorry, Larry, I was trying to make this joke. You know what I mean? I could have that up huge. But Richard Lewis, dude, was one of the coolest human beings of all time. Yeah, he was so
my mother met
kind.
him. She said he was incredible.
Oh, dude, on the way back, we're riding back from set to base camp, and Richard's sitting shotgun in like the van, and I'm sitting next to a stand-in, and he's just telling me the story, and he's up there eating kale chips, and he's eating them, and he starts coughing, and I'm trying to keep engaged with this guy and hear his story, but I'm watching Richard Lewis like coughing up here, and this dude's got a bottled water, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like looking at Richard Lewis, and I go, hey, are you gonna use that water? He's like, no, and I'm like, hey, and I hand to Richard Lewis, and he just goes, what are you trying to kill me? What took you so long with the water? I go, it wasn't my water. He goes, Jesus Christ, Richard Lewis dies in a van with stand-in and day player. And it was he goes, my wife's got me eating these kale chips. Here you guys are. I'm choking to death. You're sitting here having a story in the back. It was so funny, dude.
Yeah, you could just see him doing that.
Yeah.
Do you have any good bombing stories?
So I never really bomb.
Right.
Because I just I'm also not a very good joke writer.
Okay.
Right? So
Right.
joke writers bomb if their jokes aren't tight. But I always get saved by personality. I could just do something funny or say something, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I remember one of the first managers I was going to sign with wouldn't sign me because he said I had no jokes. I was just all personality. And I was like, oh, I never even thought that was a thing. And now when I watch joke stand-ups that are amazing joke writers, I'm like, oh yeah, they're amazing joke writers.
Right.
But I remember this one time I was, you probably know him. You know Mike Clark?
Yes, from a long time ago.
So
yes.
Lenny Clark, if you don't know, is a comedian
I know
and
Lenny
actor, and he's done tons of stuff. He was in Something About Mary. Anyway, tons of stuff. His brother, Mike Clark, books stand-up rooms around Boston. I come to L.A., I start doing stand-up, and I meet Courtney Cronin. Did you ever know Courtney Cronin? She was from Boston. I was going back to Boston, and she goes, oh, do you want to try and do a show there? She's like, I can call Mike Clark and get you a guest set. I go, all right. I did a guest set at Kowloon, did 5 minutes. A lot of people came to see me. I had a really good set. Justin McKinney was headlining. Come back to LA. Now I'm about 10 months into stand-up. I'm going back to Boston again. I call Mike Clark. I get him. And I go, hey, man, it's Jay Larson. How are you? He's like, good. And I go, listen, I was wondering if I could get a guest set. I'm coming home. He's like, oh, yeah, sure, man. I can throw you five minutes over giggles. And I go, it's kind of hoping for a little more time than 5 minutes, And he goes, well, what do you mean? Well, how much time are you expecting? And I go, I don't know. I was wondering if maybe I could do 20. and I've been like doing more time in LA and I was getting better. And he was like, 20 minutes. And I go, yeah. He goes, well, I don't even know you. And I go, yeah, I know, but I did Kowloon last time. I did 5. I did really well. And he goes, so you think you can get 20 minutes now? And I go, oh, I don't know. And he goes, I could do 5. And I go, nah, I kind of want to do 20. And he goes, well, you're not doing 20 with me. And like hung up the phone.
Right.
I was like, oh. So the next day he calls me back and he's like, hey, sorry, I lost my temper. I'm going to give you the 20 minutes. I appreciate your like enthusiasm. And I go, oh, thanks so much, man. I go home. I'm in Boston. I get there on Friday night. I go up to the front. I go, hey, I'm Jay Larson. I'm performing tonight. And the woman goes, oh, you're Jay Larson. I go, yeah. She goes, we sold out on Wednesday because of you. 86 people came to see me. That friends, family, college, high school. The buzz is out. Larson's doing stand-up. Yeah. He was at Kowloon 8 months ago. Crushed. Everyone couldn't wait to see me. Bro, I told my first joke and it crushed. And I go, all right, relax. And they did. For 19 more minutes. Nothing. Not
your friends and family?
Friends and dude, I remember there was a table in the front of like 15 people and they're all just like staring at me. And I was just like, what is this? I'd never.
Was it material that you knew worked?
It had been working, but it was literally that moment where I was just like, you're not working hard enough. You're coasting. There was no writing behind it. Right. It was me kind of just like going all on charisma and on personality. And they were just like, we all know you, man. Like,
oh my God.
Give us something. And I remember like we all went out afterwards and people, like some people wouldn't talk to me. Dude, at the 15-minute mark, I did a little dance and I just go, I'm having fun up here, trying to let them know like, yo, I'm here for it. And I remember I like went back to LA and I'm like, what can I learn from this? And I'm like, you gotta switch it up. You just have to find what wasn't working.
There's also that Boston thing. No, finish what you were saying.
No, I just realized I'm like, oh, okay. Like this thing is not smooth sailing. And I've had other bomb moments for sure. Yeah. But nothing that hit like, because when I would bomb, I would just be like, whatever. Yeah. We all get off stage. We all have comic ears. We either hear it that we crushed or we hear it that we tanked, and it's never the same.
Yeah, but in front of your friends and family.
That was a nightmare. And it was literally dead. I mean, dead. Yeah. Not a laugh from 1 minute, from minute 2 to minute 20.
There's that Boston thing, too, that I felt when you go back to Boston and people are kind of like,
oh, yeah?
You think you're a big deal now?
Yeah.
That. Or, I see your YouTube videos. Yeah. I saw you with Tom Brady. Stuff like that. There is that thing. There was this one moment. I had this friend who, like, you would have loved. He's a super Boston guy. And we're standing, and he moved to LA, and so I took him under my wing when he was in LA. And we're standing at a bar, and we're at Bar Lubitsch. He came and saw me at Bar Lubitsch.
Oh, yeah, love Bar Lubitsch.
He opens Facebook, and he goes, what the f***? He goes, Tim Tunney ran the Boston Marathon. And I go, this is like 15 years later from high school. I go, oh, that's awesome. He goes, this guy said he's finished 40th in the Boston Marathon. Ain't no f***ing way Tim Tunney finished 40th in the Boston Marathon. There's no f***ing way like that. And I'm like, yeah, that does sound kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so then he calls Tim Tunney, who hasn't talked to in 10 years, and goes, your Facebook post says you finished 40th in the Boston Marathon. There's no fucking way. And then Tim Tunney goes, well, I finished 40th over 40. Something like that.
Yeah.
And my friend was like, you got to take that post down. Like he couldn't stand that. Like there's this thing there. Like, anyway.
And don't forget, when people always ask me, they're like, were you the funniest person in your school? I'm like, no.
No, me neither.
You know how many funny people I was around all the time?
They're all funny.
In Boston, you're delivering pizzas. The delivery guy's hilarious. The guy at the front, everyone is funnier than you. Yeah, every single person is funnier than you.
So funny. All right, listen, Jay, thanks for being here.
Dude, thanks for having me. This is super fun.
Is there anything you want to promote? Anything we can look for?
Yeah, I do a podcast with Madrigal, the Dustup. It comes out Wednesdays.
You guys go and talk about great feuds.
Yeah, but we're reformatting.
Okay.
Because neither of us, what we're doing is we're bringing a comedian and we're going to talk about their famous feuds.
Oh, got it.
Feuds and fights that they've been in, but it's a lot of fun.
It's really fun.
Yeah, it was before we were like getting into famous feuds, and we were like, what are we doing here? We want to be funny with our funny friends, not recounting a historical event and trying to make it funny.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And like you said, Madrigal is just such a funny, So many people don't know Al because he stopped stand up so long ago just to get into writing and acting. You know.
Yeah. And he runs that All Things Comedy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Jay Larson, thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
All right, bye guys. See you next time.